gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's February 21st, 2022. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, presented as always by LifeWallet, where the time is now to take charge of your personal health. And Matt, we missed Friday, had some conflicts and things going on, so an absolute lot to talk about. Action-packed weekend of news on the hurricane front. The hiring of Charlie Strong being finalized appears imminent, and just a phenomenal addition, obviously, to Mario Cristobal's coaching staff. If that comes together, the hiring of Alonzo Highsmith also appearing imminent. So a lot of really, really, really good things, like I said, going on for Canes football. But the countdown is on to spring practice, and today we start discussing it with a story about why the spring depth chart should remain in flux. And it's an interesting topic, a lot of different ways you can look at it, but I think we're in agreement that the spring depth chart absolutely should remain in flux, because you have a new coaching staff getting to know players for the first time. You want everybody to have an equal opportunity to impress and fight for a starting job in the fall. And you want to keep them motivated for the 4 months after spring practice is over to keep up the grind with Coach Feld in the weight room and in off-season workouts and just keep everybody on edge, keep everybody grinding as you try to put together, obviously, the best team you can for September.
Yeah, I mean, let's not fool ourselves. There's going to be a depth chart. I mean, we're going to be there, and we're going to see who comes out first for the first reps. So I think what we mean by keeping it in flux is a heavy rotation throughout the entire spring, getting everybody first-team reps. And the interesting part of the story to me is how the transfer rule really affects the depth chart. And you wouldn't think about it on the surface that they would have any correlation, but when you dig a little deeper, you realize, well, hey, what if a guy who's good enough to start at a Georgia Tech or some other school, even a Florida State potentially, wherever, what if they're good enough to start there because there's a need of that program, but at Miami they're a backup because they have a really good starter ahead of them? How does that play out? And you have to give that player a glimpse of the first team, even if it maybe is a little disingenuous, make him think he could start, because that they're always a play away, right? They're always a play away from starting. And after spring practice, when you see a lot of these kids hit the transfer portal, and you want the Miami kids that hit the transfer portal to be the ones that you want to hit the transfer portal, not the ones that you have on the two deep,
It's going to be really interesting. I mean, there's going to be roster turnover. There's no question about it. They're going to need to lose some spots to make way for some of these transfers. There's going to be more transfers coming in. The coaches are going to have a chance to get a good read on the roster here in spring practice. And, the latter part of April and the month of May figure to be very active months, not just at Miami, but really throughout college football. And it's going to be an interesting time. It's going to be Team No Sleep for CaneSport and everybody else. I mean, it's like, I'm telling you, like this is going to be a news cycle that is really going to be unprecedented here when you factor in everything that's been going on with the coaching changes, the coaching hires, the money that's being put into the Miami program, NIL opportunities, and transfer portal action. You put all that together, Matt, and this is the craziest time that I can remember, and I've been covering hurricane football for 40 years. Not too many gray hairs yet. I don't quite understand how that's happened the way the last 20 have gone. But no, I mean, this is about as action-packed of a year, really, as we've ever seen.
Well, there's no such thing anymore as vacation for the Miami Hurricanes beat writers. There's either going to be recruiting, there's going to be some football news of some kind, hopefully good news, but sometimes not so great news with players leaving, players coming in. There's availabilities now outside the availabilities where you get kids that can talk just through their NIL deals, and almost every kid's got an NIL deal with somewhere. So you always have those going on. There's always some sort of news they have. And then you have baseball and basketball to cover. So, maybe the only break you get is in July when it's a dead period, but really in July, you're ramping up for the season, right? So you're doing all those pre-season stories, and we always do our State of the U. So there's no time off. I canceled all my vacations. I'm not going anywhere. I'm stuck in my house 24/7, and it's great. Couldn't be happier.
Especially this July is going to be particularly interesting. We got a lot of big things working at CaneSport.com. We'll have announcements down the road, but it's going to be interesting this whole summer and off season, and a lot of good stuff going on. All right, let's get to some of the other stories that are on the website this morning. Before I get into recruiting, I want to point out, let's start with basketball, Matt. And man, they had a big home game against Virginia on Saturday at the Watsco Center, and they were playing well. They took an 8-point lead at halftime. They got it to 10, almost to 12 at the beginning of the second half. And it seemed like they thought the game was over. I mean, at that point, they just stopped playing for 3, 4, 5 minutes. Their defensive intensity went way down, and Virginia put together I think it was a 24-3 run in that span, and just totally turned the game upside down. And Miami ended up losing by 3. And now suddenly a season that was looking like it could end with Miami being a legit contender for the regular season ACC title, the Canes now are on the outside looking in that regard, and are just hoping for a bye in the ACC tournament by finishing second or third. And it's kind of a shame, because when you look at it, they were right there with Virginia. You look back to the 2 games against Florida State that they lost, 1-point games. The first one in Tallahassee was stolen from the referees. I didn't think the referees were really particularly good on Saturday, but anytime you give up a 24-3 run early in the second half, you have no beef about anything. So, I don't think you can blame it on the refs, even though they had some shaky moments in that game. But if you want to look at a positive, Matt, to me, it's that messages are being sent to this team. This is a good basketball team, this Hurricane team this year, but they're not so good that they can take 5 minutes off in a game. And they're getting to the point now where it's single elimination in the ACC tournament, and then hopefully in the NCAA tournament. And they're going to need to play every single second of every game. And if they learned anything from Saturday, that you can't have that lapse where you just, let your guard up a little bit, then that's a positive.
It's great to say Miami's an outstanding team, a great team, an exciting team, whatever. But the truth is, you keep hammering on these FSU losses. Well, they've won 3 games, I think, by 2 or less points. They've won 5 games by 4 or less points. This isn't a team that's blowing anyone out or really getting blown out.
But nobody is in the ACC.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
And the ACC is not a great conference this year. There's 6 teams that are pretty good. There's another couple that are good, the Virginia Tech and Syracuse's of the world. And there's a bunch that are just not good. So, yeah, Miami's in the upper echelon of a pretty average ACC this year. And you know what? They should be there every year. There's no reason at Miami that you shouldn't be in those top 6 teams in the ACC, regardless what the biased ACC media picks. And the ACC media always picks Miami in the bottom of the conference. So I'm not really – it's great to write in our stories, oh, they were picked 12th and they're so much better. The truth is they're always picked way worse than they should be, because the ACC media, they don't like Miami, okay? That's who's voting in the ACC media poll. This isn't coaches saying, here's what's going to happen. This is some guys in North Carolina who are deciding who the best teams are in the conference before the season even starts. So I think Miami, if you were being legitimate about it, and Gary, I think you would have probably picked them somewhere in the 6 to 8 range. I would have too, and I think that's where they wind up. Probably, maybe they'll be 5th, maybe 4th. But if they're 4th or 5th, they're going to be tied for 4th or 5th and just win some tiebreakers. There's a bunch of teams right now with the same wins they have, and they're a good team. They're not a great team. They have a chance to make some noise at the ACC tournament, because the ACC, again, outside of a Duke team that they already beat, there's nobody they can't beat. Virginia beat them twice. FSU beat them twice. FSU's not the same team anymore with the injuries. and they could beat Virginia if they just don't have those lapses where they can't score against Virginia's defense, which is easier said than done, of course. But they're going to have problems in the NCAA tournament if they do make the NCAA tournament, because they're not a team that has a tremendous amount of size. They're not a team that really does something, like you always point to the Syracuse zone and things like that, and some unique things that are really good in a tournament that are hard to prepare for. Miami just has a scramble that's created a lot of turnovers, but, is that so impossible to prepare for? Some teams recently have shown it's not that hard to prepare for, right? There's 2 of the last 3 games haven't been a lot of turnovers created by Miami. So Miami's got some problems in the NCAA tournament, but you know what? If they make the NCAA tournament, that's a huge success, and fans should not be upset by that. If Miami's a 9 or 10 seed in the tournament and loses to a team in the first round, even by double digits, that's a success. This team's been nothing in the last 3 years, so fans should not be saying fire Larranaga, the team's terrible. How'd they lose to Virginia? They should be saying, wow, this is really nice compared to the last 3 years. That's what I think.
All right, I got some better news, but first let's hear from our friends at Life Wallet.
I will be your shield in the fiercest battle. I'll defend you.
Yeah.
Hey, my name is Cleveland Reed, and I play offensive line, and my job is to protect. I protect my family with Life Wallet. How about you?
Of course, I got Life Wallet. It's the best way to protect my family.
Long as we go together, we'll die whenever. Be a light, couldn't let the darkness try you ever. Truth in my word, you I lie to never.
To protect you and your family, get Life Wallet now.
Life Wallet. Saving time, saving lives.
All right, Matt, literally while the Canes basketball team was blowing its game against Virginia, the Canes baseball team was stacking up wins against Towson State to begin the season. And look, they're a significantly better team than Towson State, but you still, first weekend of the season, you got to be pleased with the performance that the Canes baseball team put out there.
Yeah, look, I'm gonna just tell you honestly, I didn't watch the games. I got other stuff. I had some recruiting stuff I had to cover.
We were both busy, but we had our
basketball. I had other stories I was writing. So
we had our superintendent Cal Friedman out there who did a great job in reporting on it.
Get Cal on here. He'll talk about it. He does a great job with that team, by the way.
Yeah, he does.
But look, they won 4 games that they should have won, and they scored 10 plus runs in each of the 4 games. I think it's the first time this happened to start a season for Miami. But we don't know anything. We don't know anything off these games. They're playing Towson. They're not going to play until they start playing some ACC teams or a Florida. You just really don't know what you have. And it's great to get excited about the team because it's that time of year, right? It's the start of baseball season. Baseball team usually has a decent chance of making it to Omaha, at least at this time of year. So there's no reason not to be excited. But I'm not going to lie and say I watched any of the games. I wasn't able to. I wasn't able to go to the games. So I'm not going to say, oh, this guy looked good, that guy looked bad. I never would lie to you guys. And that's the truth. I love baseball. I'm a baseball guy. I played baseball in college, coached my son in baseball. But with the stuff we got going on in football, with the basketball season ongoing, there's just limited time, man.
That's true. But there certainly weren't any negatives. Let's put it that way. They handled Towson State pretty well. So that's a good thing. All right. Let me move on to recruiting. And I'm going to start with a story we have today on Richard Young. He's the Superman running back, the guy that everybody in the country wants. He's got like 60 offers already. There's not a good football team in the country that doesn't want Richard Young. He's that good. Okay. So Miami's having to take a little bit of a different approach to his recruiting than maybe they do with some kids. Like, you've heard us tell a lot of stories about how Mario Cristobal pounds these kids nightly and every day in recruiting and is just a relentless recruiter. And there's no doubt about that. With Richard Young, Matt, they're taking a little bit of a different approach. They're not calling him every single day. They know he's getting a million phone calls. They're focusing more on quality contacts and things like that than just volume contacts. And your feeling on whether that's having a positive effect?
Listen, I can feel for Richard Young because my phone lights up as much from you as Richard Young's phone lights up from all these different coaches and reporters. I was going to say something like, agents, but it can't be agents.
Probably some of those too, to be honest.
They might call him, but he's, he can't talk to them.
You get Richard Young's NIL NIL representation, you're going to make some money.
Listen, here's the problem I have with Richard Young. Okay, he scares me because he's not the biggest guy. He's a running back. He's not like you meet Peyton Kirkland in person, and you're like, you're looking up at the stars. Basically, he's enormous, wide and tall, and everything you'd ever ask for in a lineman. Richard Young, he looks like he doesn't look like. Just to size him up and say, oh my, this has got to be one of the best running backs in the country. You don't just say that to look at him.
But then you turn on the videotape
right.
And it's like, oh my God.
Correct. So what scares me isn't that part. So I'm just setting the table because he just looks like a guy. And then he talks. And when I say it's like his voice is like a 60-year-old man, and he sort of looks at you like you're an idiot. It's like when your kid looks at you if you say something stupid. Huh?
It's like a 60-year-old man.
He has that wisdom, and he has that deep voice, that deep, gravelly voice that you don't expect to come out of a body that looks like that. Like you probably have friends or people where their voice doesn't match their body. He's one of those guys, that voice looks like it belongs to a 6'4", 280-pound, maybe 50-year-old guy, 40-year-old guy, whatever. He sounds like an older, bigger guy. So it freaks me out a little bit, I got to tell you.
All right, so we've got
nice guy, great guy, by the way, great guy, really nice guy. But
he's a nice kid, and we have an update on him on the website this morning. Matt mentioned Peyton Kirkland, another update that we have today, and you're going to be getting a lot of updates on Peyton Kirkland because he's an offensive lineman. If he's an offensive lineman, that means Mario Cristobal is putting a lot of time into his recruitment, and obviously so is Alex Mirabal. And Matt, it seems like Miami, he's definitely feeling the love. There's no question about that.
Yeah, so he says he's hearing from he and his mom are hearing from Miami, like, I don't know, 3 times a day or whatever. And yeah, I mean, they're FaceTiming mom while she's cooking. I didn't really ask what that was all about. I don't know if Mario Cristobal is looking for some recipes. That was sort of weird to me. I didn't delve further into that conversation. When he said that they FaceTime my mom while she's cooking, I said, okay, let's move on to the next question. I don't know what that's all about. But listen, his mom's a big part of his recruitment, so it's great that Miami recognizes that. And, unlike Richard Young, like you said, there's 2 different approaches, right? Richard Young doesn't want his phone blown up constantly. He constantly has it on mute because every time it's on, it's just going off. And so they recognize that. They're only contacting Richard Young, 1 or 2, maybe 3 texts a week. That's it. And he appreciates that. And he says they know how to recruit at Miami. And with Peyton Kirkland, it's the total opposite. He wants the attention. He's getting it. Every 3 hours, a text. He gets phone calls, FaceTime calls. He loves the attention. So kudos to Miami for recognizing you don't just take one approach to everybody. It's like a good weight room coach, right? Not everybody has the exact same regimen you got to put in to get the result you want. This is a sign of a great recruiting staff that they know this early in a kid's recruitment how to deal with the kid. And I asked Richard Young, going back to Richard Young, I said, when he said they only reach out, 2 or 3 times a week, I said, is that, something you like, or you would rather hear from them more? He says, no. He says, they know how to recruit. I don't want to hear from these other coaches so much. It's ridiculous.
I mean, how many phone calls is the kid supposed to get a week? If you got 60 schools,
you can text the kid every minute if you wanted to.
Oh my God!
He's got 59 offers. He's got 59 offers, and he hasn't narrowed his list down sufficiently to where anyone's going to stop recruiting him. Okay, so Miami recognizes that. So I said to Richard, I said, Richard, I'm just curious. Did Miami coaches ever ask you? Are we texting you too much? Are we calling too much? How much should we call or text you? He says, no, they just know. So obviously Miami's reached out to people around Richard to see the kid's overwhelmed. He doesn't want to hear from everybody. Like, they know. Without even asking the kid, they knew that this was not the way to recruit Richard Young.
Yeah.
I'm just super impressed by that.
Yeah, it is impressive to know when to dial it back a little bit. All right, and also a story on the website today on defensive end, Derek LeBlanc. Miami's in the top group, and he's hoping to visit in March. And you can see the story online to find out everything else he's talking about right now. So that's going to do it for Good Morning CaneSport for today. We got a lot coming on at you this week. Under Armour Camp Miami was this week. Our friends at Life Wallet had a massive NIL event this weekend that generated a lot of activity. So,
by the way, you're not going to believe this. I went to that Life Wallet event, and John Ruiz I'm gonna give you two choices. You can pick which one it is. Okay. Did John Ruiz A, kick me out of the event because he watched some of these Good Morning Cane Sports from way back when I wasn't quite sure who he was? Or did he B, guarantee that any seats that aren't sold for the season opener, he will personally purchase to make sure it's sold out?
He's told me that, yeah. He's going to guarantee a sellout for the Bethune-Cookman game.
Yeah, does he not understand he's going to be buying 40,000 seats? I don't think anyone's told him.
It doesn't matter. It's all semantics. He's getting ready to give them money for facilities. So,
well, if Miami's smart, they'll raise their prices for every ticket to $1 million. They'll get $40 billion
even
from John Ruiz for the ticket.
Even if he pays $100 a seat for 40,000 seats, so what's that? $4 million. He's going to give them more than that for facilities. So it's all semantics. But but that is a nice gesture by him to guarantee that Mario Cristobal's first game is a sellout. And the challenge, of course, will be what he's going to do with the tickets and who he's going to give them to. Anyway, that is going to do it for today for Good Morning CaneSport. Like I said, we'll have a lot more coming at you this week. For Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. We thank you for watching once again, and we'll see you tomorrow, everybody.